You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
Welcome to Chicago Stories. This is Mayor Rahm Emanuel. We're here to talk about improv in the city of Chicago and comedy as a whole with Charna Halpern. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
U.S. history for 200. Okay.
You got it.
So tell me, I'm fascinated, how did the name I.O. come about?
Well,
what's the background of that?
It used to be Improv Olympic.
Right.
And because I was, honoring the Olympics in Greece. And,
In Greece.
In Greece. They would go to Mount Olympus to share the art, and the art, the dance, the music, sport. And the Olympic Committee came after me, actually. They decided that I was causing confusion.
The Olympic Committee?
Yes.
The ones with scandals in their background that came after you?
Yes, exactly. They thought I wanted to be a part of that. And
Did you take any bribes in a great tradition of both?
Exactly. They said that I was causing confusion. People might be coming thinking they're seeing the javelin throw or something. And they demanded that I change my name. And I was happy to change my name anyway, because in the old days I used to do little games, which is when I was Improv Olympic. But then when I met Del Close, we created long form improvisation, and the people in the community, the hip people, were calling it I.O. now. Improv Olympics sounded too cheesy. So I thought, I'm going to go along with this and get a lot of press on it and look like the underdog, and then announce to the world that my name is now I.O. instead of Improv Olympic.
What is long form?
In the old days, or Second City, for example, you'll have two people on stage doing scenes while the four people are backstage having a cigarette or whatever. In long form,
Anything in that cigarette we should know about?
Most likely, not at I.O., but at Second City.
Yeah.
So now we have everybody on stage at the same time, taking one suggestion, bantering about some ideas, then creating scenes that will weave together like a play, and will be brilliant and hilarious, and everyone's responsible for everything. They're never leaving the stage. So I might be the voiceover, the editor, the improviser, the poster on the wall.
Everybody's hands-on right then.
Right.
That's long form.
Yes, because it's complete ensemble work. You are all responsible. No one's on a break. And something amazing is happening, and it's like a 30-minute piece.
How did a teacher get into this? I can give you my road from, it's a natural road, Joffrey Ballet, Mayor. It's
Are you serious?
Everybody travels that road.
Well, I have to do a dance after. Yeah, I was a teacher. I taught.
You were a teacher.
Yeah, I taught juvenile delinquents in a school called Heart of Mary that used to be where the Wrigley Field parking is now. And I went to a party and I met Tim Kazurinsky, and everyone was drinking and being crazy at the party, and he said, "You're funny, you should be in Second City." So I started taking classes to see what this is all about. And as I was in my classes, I realized that if you weren't one of the 6 people on stage at Second City, you weren't performing. So I started my own little company doing games, and there were people like Dan Castellaneta, who's now the voice of Homer Simpson, and he played with me, and there were a whole bunch of other really cool people, and we created this little game competition. And I wanted it to get more press, so I actually I heard at the time that the police needed safety vests and they had no money, so I did a competition, and I got a team of rabbis, and they were called the God Squad, and I trained them. And I had a team of media people. I had Harry Volkman and Joel Daly, psychologists called Freudian Slippers, and we all competed and everything, and it was getting very popular. But after a while, the rabbis couldn't play on Friday nights. There were all these problems, so I decided I wanted to just work
that Shabbat thing will get you every time.
It was a problem. It was a real problem. So I decided to just work with actors and make.
What's a girl from Rogers Park doing, trying to do,
Once I did it, once you do it, the bug bites you, and once you get laughs. And then it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun.
Now, why do you think Chicago is kind of this epicenter with Second City and with I.O. Theater? Why do you think people come here to start their career in?
Now I think it is because of I.O. and Second City. I mean, we've become Mecca. People come here from all over the world. It used to be you go to New York to get famous. Now you come to Chicago, and this is where now, like, I work with Lorne Michaels. He's always casting people from I.O. All the TV shows that are up now, Seth Meyers and his whole writing crew are all from I.O. Jordan Klepper, who's got a new show starting, Colbert,
right,
and all his people. I mean, everyone.
But what is it about Chicago that gives people Besides,
Well,
it's not
I
just it's obviously the institutions run it, but why do the institutions
I
even
think
start here?
because here we can experiment. You know, that's why Del and I were able to do long form, which I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit with Del Close, my crazy former partner. But you can experiment. You don't have Hollywood agents sitting in the audience, people getting scared, going, I have to be funny, I have to be great. Here we're just taking the time to bake, you know, to get good. The audience is supportive. Chicago audiences are great. And yeah, we can just take our time and really develop something here. And that's what's been happening. And now people all over the world. I mean, I just had a summer intensive. There were people from Russia, from China, Peru, Pakistan. What we teach is agreement. It happens to be, you know, it's a high-level form of collaboration. It's not really comedy. It just so happens that when you do it right, it's very, very funny. But I have worked with the American Embassy. They sent me to Cyprus because
During the standoff of the Greeks and the Turks?
Yes, that's who I was working with because President Dentes.
Are you sure you're not a CIA spy?
No, not really. Speaking to the mic though. I worked with them because President Dentes wanted to raise the border to join the European Union. And I thought, how hip that the American Embassy recognized what I do. And they had me come down. I worked on both sides. Then we worked together and the border was raised. And I won a Nobel Peace Prize. I know you got pulled with Obama. No, he's not the president anymore, unfortunately.
You got Nobel, it's a Scandinavian thing. They're the people that all get along.
Okay.
So tell me how, give me like the funniest, your breakout moment where you realized for yourself what you were doing, this is what I want to do. What was a skit? Was there a single skit, a single moment that made you
No,
realize
I think just
you're going to take the leap from school to this?
well, that happened. Actually, there was a little detour. It's like you said, coming from the Joffrey. You know yourself. I actually first got a radio show by accident. That was kind of my leap into. I was a teacher. My father got his first McDonald's franchise in a small town called Dixon, Illinois. There was no fast food there, so it was a big deal.
There was a Ronald Reagan, but that's it.
Yeah, but he was already gone.
Yeah.
That was the only exciting thing was Ronald Reagan. So I went down there for the grand opening, and there was some guy from the radio show doing, you know, a remote, and he didn't care, and he was just interviewing people. And I thought he was doing a bad job, so I took the mic, and I just started interviewing people because I wanted my dad's grand opening to be fun. And that night, I got a call from Janesville, Wisconsin, this company that owned all the small market radio stations, and they asked me if I would like a radio job. And my first thought was, oh, I couldn't possibly. I don't know anything about radio. I'm a school teacher. Then when I got back to work, the nuns, because it was run by the Archdiocese, I was the only Jewish person in the place, the nuns told me that they lost their grant because I was on a Title I program from the Board of Ed. And they wanted to keep me, but it would be like a very low salary. And then I thought, well, maybe I should try this. Maybe I can do more than one thing. So then I got into radio, and it was when I came back that I met Tim Kizerinsky at a party. And Tim and I are still friends to this day. Yeah, I guess it was the goofing around at a party.
What is the Herald?
Yes, and is the idea that no matter what you say, I'm going to agree and add to your idea. Because, you know, it's the old saying, 2 heads are better than one. Well, wait till you see what like 8 or 9 can do on stage. So the Herald is the first long form that Del Close and I created. And it was only called Herald because, again, Del said, what should we call it? And somebody jokingly said Herald, just like when they asked the Beatles, what is your haircut called? And George Harrison said Arthur. It was just a smart-ass remark. So Del said, all right, and being yes and, all right, my life's work will be called Herald. You know, how would Einstein feel if the theory of relativity was called Herald? But it just became Herald. And then from there, other forms started. You know, I created other forms called the Cat's Cradle. So because it's all the same idea. You do scenes, you listen, you remember, and you recycle, and you connect, so we can create any kind of form. So it's a lot more fun than just doing little games where you have to just be funny. This is more than just being funny. This is creating great art. And
why do you think we're in a position right now, because you were mentioning some of the people on the Colbert Show and some of the Seth Meyers Show, why is it that those shows are now seen as news shows, and the news shows now are seen merely as entertainment? What made what should have been comedy for to hold a mirror up and make us laugh to some of the absurdities become where people are getting their information? And I don't think it's just technology and millennials. What do you think is going on that comedy is where people are turning for reality, and reality is where they turn basically if they just want to turn their mind off? What has happened? I mean, why? And is that a good thing?
I think it is a good thing. I think more people are paying attention to the news now. I'm not sure why it's happening. I think that we've got some really smart people on the air right now who are just saying, hey, look at our world. Our world is comedy already, the things that are happening. So we just have to, some things are so serious they can only be joked about. And you just can't make stuff up funnier than, that's the truth in comedy of my book. There's just nothing funnier than the truth. So they have to deal with the truth.
No, but in the last 10 years, and it's not a recent phenomenon of Trump, but through Obama, through Bush, through the Iraq War, somehow the Daily Show, obviously Colbert's graduated from the Colbert Show to, what he's doing at CBS. Something's happened where people are turning to they have an authority that you would have reserved for Walter Cronkite 40 years ago.
I agree. I don't know.
I don't get it.
Maybe they're just.
And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm just saying. From a political sociologist, why is this?
I think they make the news more palatable, and they help you figure out what's right and wrong. They help you figure out where to laugh,
rather than cry.
Rather than cry, exactly. And we share the same world. Let's cry about this. Or what do we do about this?
If you were going to do a right now, if you were to do a skit, how do you train people to set them up to start to learn how to do kind of long form comedy?
Well, first we get them to really listen, and then to listen for the game move, because very often in a scene, there's a game move in a scene. Okay. We're very often not saying what we're really saying. We're actually kind of saying something to let you know, here's what I want from you. So if we're talking about abuse or something like that from our openings, and I start a scene with you saying, Father, please, could I just have one piece of bread today? Using agreement isn't saying, sure, what, you want a steak? You have to listen and go, what is she asking me? I see she's insinuating that I am a mean, abusive father who doesn't feed her. What's the best response here? All right, no, back in your cage, clean that dirt floor. So you're listening to my game move. And so that's what we teach people to listen for. You have to read between the lines of what we're really saying. Because really the agreement is between the actors. So I'm saying, hey, here's my idea. Right. Don't feed me, starve me, give me something to fear. And so that's why we really listen and take it, we call it slow comedy. We're really sitting down here and listening between the lines, and it tastes so good. It's not that knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I gotta be witty, like whose line is it anyway? I gotta be real funny. It's kind of like,
it's not the competition for it to dominate the space?
No, this is about really listening and what are you asking me for? And okay, I'm gonna give you the best answer possible here, and I'm going to play your game. And that's where the agreement really is. So it's a real thinking man's game. It's not just that knee-jerk reaction.
There's no way you can you spot talent immediately?
I'm known as the star maker. I've put up people for Saturday Night Live like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Mike Myers Farley, who I hated in the beginning, but then because he was so desperate to show me how funny he was that when he was in my classes, he was falling on the stage and showing me the crack of his butt, and I'm like, just do the exercise. And then one night he came up to me at the theater, this is after a few weeks, and he said to me, let me play tonight, let me play. And I'm like, no, there's no way you're getting on my stage. And he was hitting the walls, and people respect me. People are afraid of me. I'm the one who decides, when they get on stage and what agents see them and what casting directors see them. I've never been treated like this before. And he was just yelling, let me play. And I saw that, Keckner was on stage and Mike Myers was on stage, and I thought, you know what?
Mike Myers was on stage?
Oh, sure. They were going to be playing on stage that night. So I knew they could handle this wild hair if I decided to let him go up. And I decided, actually, I wasn't even going to really let him go up. I was just going to scare him.
This is Chris Farley.
Yeah, Chris Farley. So I said to Farley, I'm going to let you go up tonight, but if you do and you screw up on my stage, you will never go up again in this town. You want to take that chance? But before I could finish...
You're like a ward committeeman. I love that.
Yeah, right, exactly. and he waddled to the stage, and he went up on stage, and I remember Keckner and Mike Myers looking at me like, what are you doing to us? But I thought, it's one show, what's going to happen? And at the time, we didn't have big audiences anyway. And he actually was wonderful, and that's when I fell in love with him, because he was listening, and he was funny, and he was like a sponge. Whatever somebody's emotion was, he wore it. And then afterwards, he came up to me like a little puppy dog going, "Was that okay?" And I was like, "Yes, you were wonderful." And then he
And here's
calmed
your
down.
M&M peanut.
Right.
What
No.
did you see in Tina Fey?
Tina was brilliant right away.
Just from the get-go?
Just from the start. I mean, I remember she was a French maid in a scene, and she got mad at someone, and she was throwing things, and she discovered this environment. Everything she picked up, it was just so unique and different, and she was just really smart. And she didn't know Amy, by the way, and Amy
So she was sophisticated there, and you just said right there from that scene, you knew.
She was somebody that I liked right there and then I just saw how smart she was. And she
Is this at a show or just at a
This was
trial?
in my workshops, just in my workshops. She was my student. And she loved the tenets. She loved the ideas. She even wrote that in my book. It's a way of life for her to just say yes to people, to treat each other as if we were geniuses and poets and artists, and we have a better chance of becoming that. So she responded to those tenets. And in another class was a young girl named Amy Poehler, who was also very funny. And I thought, I'm going to put these two together on a team. And I'm going to surround them by some really strong guys. And the two of them became best friends for life. And they constantly.
What did you
credit
see
me.
in Amy?
Amy was sweet.
Was there some scene, or she was just sweet?
There was it was so many years ago.
Right.
She was very giving, very sweet, very funny, and she was the type of person that if you said something on stage, she would love it, no matter how bad it was. She would laugh, and the worse it was, the more she loved it, and she would make it work. And she was just this really giving, sweet person, And Tina was too. You have to understand, Tina's not the girl that you know now. Tina was this frumpy girl with no makeup on, and she always wore overalls, and she was a little overweight, and she was shy, and and she actually had a crush on my musical director, Chef Richmond. And I let her be an assistant. I asked her if she would be his assistant on a show he was putting up for me. And she said yes. And they fell in love, and they got married, and they're married today.
So you do matchmaking on the side?
It's
a small little commission?
Sometimes, yeah. Actually, there's so many marriages.
A little get together.
Let me tell you something. IO is such a family. And it grows, but so many of them are married and have kids and families. They've been with me for 12 to 15 years, our performers. My world newscast has been with me for years and years and years. And Shakespeare, improvised Shakespeare, they love it, and they stay, and I help them get work, and then, you can't help but fall in love with each other.
How often are the folks out of any one of the shows or SNL and anything, how often are they in and out of the IO?
They
looking
come
for
back. They
talent?
were just here a couple weeks ago. In fact, we're waiting to see. There's a couple of my people
Writers?
they brought out. Performers, hopefully. Hopefully. I can't say who yet because I don't know, but
No, I got it.
I'm hoping that I have a good track record. But they were just here. Lauren was just here a couple weeks ago, and I love him. He's so nice.
What did you think of the Emmys? Did you watch?
I did, of course.
Yeah?
I was very happy. I was a little disappointed in Sean Spicer being on,
Right.
but I thought I was happy SNL won. I was happy that Kate McKinnon won, and there were a lot of IO people there, so it was exciting. Seth, all these people. That was just great. I thought it was fun, very entertaining. But every year it gets better and better for me because it's more IO people. And someday I wrote a movie actually about me and Del,
Really?
and things are progressing. So maybe someday you'll see me up there.
You excited?
It's a good story.
How about, was it a story about IO or is
It's
it?
about me and Del and what we've created. And Del was crazy. I don't know if you've heard of Del Close. I'm sure.
Right, yeah.
Being with him, this movie wrote itself. I mean,
Really?
I couldn't make up stuff crazier than this man was just a wild man, this mad genius. And being with him, my job was to keep one foot on the ground with him, and working with him.
What
was
made you
amazing.
guys? What did you find in Del?
Del was, like I said, a little bit mad, but he was this genius, and he worked at Second City at
Right.
the time when I met him. And I, again, wanted to take my games further. I thought there's got to be more for improvisation than this little game stuff. And that's when I met him, and I heard that he does drugs, or did drugs, so I offered him $200 and some pot, and to teach one class. And he said, all right, I'll teach a class. And he really did open the secrets of the universe to us. And this is where we learned all these tenets that we talk about, like saying yes and playing off the top of your intelligence. And I said, there's got to be something more for improv. And he said, well, maybe you're not a twit after all, doing these little games. He said, I've been working on something since the 60s, which is basically unplayable and unteachable. But if you want to shut down your little game theater, we can use some of your games and some of my stuff and create something and change the face of improvisational comedy.
There's
and I
no
said,
doubt.
yes, please. Yep. And we did it.
You ever look back?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Because those were the most fun times I had with him. He was just, there was never a dull moment. Never. I mean.
What was he like as a business person?
Oh, he wasn't a business person at all. I mean, we once got a TV show. I was flown out by Michael Douglas and Chris Beard to do a show, and Chris Beard was one who did Putting on the Hits and, you know, Gong Show and stuff like that. And we were at a table as long as this table right here with all these executives and Michael Douglas, and they offered the show to me. And before I could answer, Del said, "Oh, no, thank you." And I was like, "What?" And Del said, in front of everyone, "You don't expect me to work with these cheeseheads, do you? I mean, the Gong Show." And I was like, Del, this is a really good opportunity for us to show our stuff. And he's like, "Charna, the Gong Show. I mean," and I said to everyone, "Can we have a few minutes alone, please?" And I just wanted to, I hit him up against the wall going, "This time you're going to listen to me." But the show didn't happen anyway. We did shoot it. But
do you get talent from some of the universities? DePaul, Columbia, Northwest, all local, and I know you're drawing people from around the world and around the country.
Absolutely, no, a lot from Chicago. The students come here. Northwestern, a lot of people come from Northwestern, and they love it. This is, you know, a real chance for them to be in professional theater, and they love the tenets, and it really makes better people, and it makes good students because it gives you a reason to study. You know, we had, in fact, when I taught Steve Colbert, he was on a team with David Schwimmer.
Right, all Northwestern.
All Northwestern, called No Fun Mud Piranhas. And there was one kid who came out, and the theme was bonds, and he was engineering.
Bonds,
B-O-N-D-S, and he was in engineering, and he did a monologue on ionic bonding and got a standing ovation. And he said to me, "I never thought I would have use for this information." And I was like, so it's great for kids. It's a good reason to study and a great way to, because everything you know is going to help you on stage.
Everything.
So everything. So it gives them a better reason to study. And then when they're done with school, they stay with me.
It's such a great resource, man, for the city.
It's such a great resource. It's such a fun. In fact, I want to invite you to come sometime. We have a show on Monday nights called Armando, the Armando Diaz Theatrical Experience in Hootenanny. And every week we have a different special guest. They just come and tell a story, a short little story. You do 3 stories an act, and then we do scenes around it, proving or disproving the points, and it's just really fun, and we're always respectful, but it's always smart and funny. We have Ryan Dempster coming in a couple weeks, the former pitcher from the Cubs, and we've had Bernie Stone, we've had all kinds of people from all different...
Okay, we'll work it out.
It'd be fun.
All right, I have a deal for you. If I come Monday...
Yeah.
What's my night that I'm coming for again?
It's on a Monday.
Okay.
You have to choose which Monday you want.
Okay, no, we'll do that. Have you seen the new theater on the lake that we opened up?
I heard about it.
You will... you should take a look at it.
Okay.
We took the old, the theater on the lake, rehabbed it. It's got a restaurant in it, but there's a theater in the back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Could we bring the I.O. theater there one time?
Yes, as much as you want. Are you kidding?
Okay, we're going to set that up.
All right.
Okay, I'll do a Monday.
Okay.
Tell my story, and then do I have to perform too?
No, you don't have to. You just talk. You want to?
No, we'll figure it out.
Okay, you can do it. The host does whatever he wants.
Okay,
That's
but
the
no, we'll figure out how to raise money for some entity.
That'd be nice.
For like Misericordia or something like that.
And by the way, thank you. I don't know if this is something you want on your podcast, but thank you for making this, for going against Trump and making this a city where people are safe and they don't have to worry about
a sanctuary city.
A sanctuary city.
We're going to make this a Trump-free city.
Oh God, you're wonderful.
Yeah, except for in the comedy clubs. You can bring them there, but then after that you have to get rid.
No, we don't want them.
It is really, it's not right to scare these kids.
It's it's terrible. Just terrible. You know.
How do you find? How do you know Tina Fey? That's a person. You're telling me she's frumpy and all this, and all of a sudden, how do you know that's? What do you look for?
People have asked me this. It's hard to explain that I see it. I see them. They take the stage. They are brave. They are bold.
Are you telling me this wasn't an original question?
No, it isn't. I mean, people have asked it. How do you find it? How do you know? I mean, I've been interviewed. They want to know how, you picked out all these people.
Yeah,
how
it's nice. So you're not a one-off, and Johnny one note. So you've clearly got a knack. What is it? What is it about the connectivity?
Somebody, you know what? A high reference level. That really makes a difference. Like Adam McKay. Adam is a big director. He's one. No. Your brother represents him, in fact. He wasn't a good actor physically, but he was brilliant, just brilliant. And in fact, when he had to leave, he was going to leave town when he was a student of mine because his parents said, "We're not supporting you anymore. You didn't make it in stand-up. You got to come home." And he came to my house to say goodbye. And I said, "Adam, you can't leave. And he said, I can't stay, I have no money. I said, then you live with me and I'll take care of you, but you are going to be huge someday. You are so smart and you're going to make so many changes.
And
you're
you
gonna
just knew it.
I absolutely knew. And he lived with me.
So
He thanked me on the Oscars because, if it wasn't for him.
You ran the first Airbnb in Chicago.
Exactly. With lots of performers. Lots of performers. I've taken care of many. I'm the mother of comedy. I have many misfits that have stayed at my house.
Betcha. All right, here's we do our quick round robin. You ready?
Okay.
It's in Chicago.
Okay.
Cubs or Sox?
Cubs.
Thick or thin pizza?
Thick.
Lake or river?
Lake. My dogs go to the lake every weekend. We love it.
All right. That's it, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making Chicago home.
You got it.
All right, and thanks for the book.
Oh, please read it.
I may think about a couple aldermen and I signing up for a class.
That'd be fun. Oh, that'd be fun. Right? Let me tell you. And I also worked with the particle physicists at CERN.
Oh, yes.
Who were going to create the Large Hadron Collider because they were all these brilliant men and no one was agreeing, and we were worried about them creating a black hole, and I got them to agree and I saved the world, man. No Nobel Peace Prize.
You know what? We're going to do a statue for you in Grant Park. What do you want, wood or bronze?
Then they'll tear it down.
Yeah, that's exactly. All right, we're coming. We're going to work it out.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Fiona, for being here.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Rahm Emanuel.